an extraordinary individual that has vision, and a vision to make other people's lives better. And honestly, when I think about her work, is that it makes me have hope that there's people out there that actually care about others. And to me, that's really, really, really food for the soul. And she exemplifies that.
That's Richard Ramos, the principal at Haddon STEAM Academy in Los Angeles. He's describing Riley Gant, the founder of a nonprofit called Rainbow Pack, which distributes backpacks filled with school supplies to elementary school students facing poverty. Since its founding 6 years ago, Riley and her team have given away more than 14,000 backpacks throughout Los Angeles County, 5,000 last year alone. Rainbow Pack isn't huge, and there are other organizations that do similar work. What makes Rainbow Pack so special, although she wouldn't admit it, is Riley herself. She was 10 years old when she founded it. This is Crazy Good Turns. We tell stories about people who do amazing things for others, and I'm your host, Brad Shaw. Riley Gant grew up in Sherman Oaks, California, the only child of Leanna and Bradford Gant. She was a gregarious kid, an independent thinker from the start, marching to her own beat. Here's her mom, Leanna.
Riley's just always been Riley, and we've just tried to encourage her to be Riley when she was really little, and a lot of kids dress themselves and don't do the best job of it. We just called it Riley style instead of trying to fix it because that just seemed like a lot of work. We just let her do it and we named it. And I think that just kind of stuck. Whenever she wants to do something, we try to, encourage her and show her, point her in the right direction and see if she wants to figure it out. And she usually does. Not necessarily the way we would, but she's kind of her own unique person.
From an early age, Riley empathized deeply with people in need and sought out ways to help, often impractically at first. Here's Riley with a story that her mom tells about her when she was 4 years old.
We were driving and I saw someone that was homeless, and I think in my head I sort of made the connection where, okay, they don't have a home and we have a home. And so I asked my mom if we could take the homeless person home. And obviously that was not a very practical solution to this problem. But my mom did help explain to me, okay, Riley, we can't do that. But what we can do is help support different organizations and things that do help provide resources and homes for these people. And so my family was really action-oriented, helped me expose to all the things that I could do at a really young age.
Riley's early years were filled with all the things you'd expect from a little girl growing up in a middle-class family. Gymnastics, swim lessons, learning to play the guitar. But that action orientation for service that her parents instilled in her also had Riley volunteering at an early age. Beach cleanups, manning booths at health fairs and underserved communities, volunteering at blood drives. The inspiration for Rainbow Pack came during a class trip Riley took to Haddon STEAM Academy, mentioned at the start of this episode. Haddon is located in the LA neighborhood of Pacoima, a community fraught with poverty, gangs, and homelessness. Riley's class was there on a service learning trip, distributing books they'd collected, reading to kids, doing math flashcards, coloring with the kindergartners.
While we were coloring, one of the little girls just mentioned to me that she wanted a box of skinny crayons, but her mom says she couldn't afford them. And to me, that just was really astonishing because crayons and school supplies in general, that was just such a basic thing to me. I had more crayons than I could ever use or ever want. And so to think that someone so young, she was in kindergarten, didn't have something as basic as crayons just really, really upset me. And so, I went home to my mom that day and I was really upset. And my mom was very confused as to why, because she had sent me on sort of a field trip. And then I came back and I was rambling on about crayons and I was, prepared to run home, get my own box of crayons and make her drive back down to Pacoima to give this girl a box of crayons. But, luckily she sort of had me slow down a little bit and said that we should probably learn a little bit more about this because, obviously this wasn't my experience. And so I didn't really, know a lot about it. We wanted to make sure that if I was making an impact, that it would be the right kind, the one that they really needed. And so she ended up reaching out to my school's outreach coordinator, who helped talk to me more sort of about the school and the issue, and then ended up connecting me with the school social worker. And she was really the one that told us the scale of this issue that it wasn't just this one little girl or one box of crayons. Students in schools like the one this little girl was a part of lacked all basic school supplies. So things like pencils, erasers, backpacks, everything. They didn't have any of it. And because of that, they would fall behind in school. They couldn't do their homework. And overall, they were much more likely to drop out because of their negative school experience from a really young age. And that moment was really the thing that sparked me to say, okay, we need to do something about this. We need to get them not only crayons, but all the basic school supplies that they need. And so it really was that one little girl in that classroom.
Okay, think about what you just heard. Sure, it's coming from the mouth and mind of a now 16-year-old, but for those of you with kids, just imagine your 10-year-old coming home and expressing that level of empathy for another child and wanting to do something to help. But more importantly, at the ripe age of 10, Riley grasped the scale of the broader issue and its downstream impact on impoverished students. That's pretty incredible. Riley says she didn't start out thinking she'd launch a nonprofit. She just wanted to find a way to help that little girl and all the other students in her class who were so lacking in the supplies they needed to do their schoolwork. But Riley's passion had a gravitational pull that drew others to her cause.
I was just focused on helping her and her classmates, get the supplies that they needed. I mean, the first year, we set a goal just to do that one grade, that kindergarten class. We got overwhelming support from friends and family, which just astonished me because this was just an idea. It was one experience. I was the one that was, really passionate about doing this. I had no idea that anyone else would care about what I was doing or believe in me to be able to do this. And so we ended up surpassing our goal our first year and giving out 360 backpacks and supplies. But really, I think it was after that first year where we were like, okay, people actually care about this as well, and they actually would help support us. They're giving us donations.
So Riley, with help from her parents and their accountant, set up a nonprofit and set about building all the infrastructure they'd need to solicit donations and distribute backpacks. But first, they needed a name. Riley says she was in her backyard with her parents, kicking around ideas when she came up with Rainbow Pack because, well, she was 10 and she liked rainbows, and she thought it sounded cool. But as you'd expect from Riley, she saw a deeper meaning.
For one thing, I think the rainbow helps represent that we work with elementary school students. It's something that's really important to us, is helping the youngest students. We really think that empowering these kids and getting them prepared at a young age is really important if you want them to go on to any sort of higher education. And then, so we think that, the rainbow helps represent that.
Riley says the rainbow of colors that their backpacks come in also serves a more practical and empowering purpose.
5 people have a black backpack in my grade, and I'm constantly, they're always taking each other's backpacks on accident. Then we were like, okay, we're going to give them a wide variety of colors. And we didn't realize how unique it was until we started hearing about other organizations that did just give one color. And we've learned that this power of choice, that not only are these kids getting a new backpack, but they're actually getting to choose a color that they want, is actually a really empowering and important thing. It's something that these kids really may not ever get to do or not get to do very often given their circumstances.
Rainbow Pack's work is a year-long operation, starting with Riley and team setting a goal for the year in January. Last year it was 5,000 backpacks, which they met, and they're doubling that goal this year to 10,000. Riley spends much of her time through the year fundraising and spreading the Rainbow Pack message. The bulk of their funding comes from public donations. Local school districts work with Riley to identify schools with 95% or more of their students on meal assistance programs. The logic being, if families are having difficulty feeding their children, it's equally difficult for them to purchase school supplies.
We never, ever want there to be a parent that's having to make the choice when it comes to back to school time between putting food on the table for their families and getting them supplies. That shouldn't be a choice that any parent ever has to make. And so that's what we're trying to do, is help relieve that burden that we don't think should be there in the first place, to help them, it just make it a little bit more easier for them to get through that month, that week, that day even, to know, okay, my kids are taken care of.
Rainbow Pack's efforts culminate in big back-to-school events attended by parents, local dignitaries, and a core of volunteers. The kids pick out their backpacks filled with school supplies tailored to their grade, and Riley addresses the crowd with a heartfelt message about the importance of education. Here's Riley talking about one recent backpack recipient.
There was a kid that was staying a little bit after at one of the events because I think one of his parents was a volunteer, and he was going through his stuff, and he took out the eraser. And he was like, oh my gosh, I've always wanted an eraser. I never had an eraser of my own. And he started like rubbing it on his face and he was like smiling so much. He was so excited. And this is an eraser. This is something that I saw littered on the sides of, planters at my old school. It was just, taken for granted. And this kid was acting like we had just given him the coolest thing in the whole world. And so it just highlights how basic these supplies are and how they're taken for granted by so many people, me included, but how important they are to these kids.
Those feel-good stories mean a lot to Riley, and she told me Rainbow Pack's back-to-school events are what she loves the most about her work, because the focus is on the students and parents, not on her or on fundraising. But all of this made me wonder about the long-term impact of their work. I mean, it's awesome what she's doing, but is it making a difference in the lives of these kids? Her answer didn't surprise me.
We actually release a survey to all the schools that we give to at the end of the year to help us sort of see, okay, is what we're trying to do, the impact we're trying to make, is that actually happening? Because, I would hate for us to have gone through, 6, almost 7 years of doing this and then hear that we weren't actually making the impact we wanted to. And so we're always striving to make sure we're making the best impact that we can. And it's been really surprising to hear the responses of some of the impacts. The teachers are saying that they're seeing an improvement in the child's self-esteem, their interest in learning, which is just crazy to us because it was just about the supplies and now it's extending over into the students are actually feeling better about themselves and feeling empowered, which is of course what we want, but we had no idea was actually happening. And then they are saying that they have students, now 100% of their class is doing their homework on a daily basis when it was not like that before. And, it's just been crazy to see because we had no idea that impact was going to be happening. And one other thing that we've heard a lot is that it really helps foster a sense of community. So it really helps because all of the students are getting these supplies. We're not picking and choosing which kids need it the most. Every kid is getting it. It just helps equalize the playing field.
Along the way, Riley's also been pretty crafty, turning her age into an advantage to push her broader agenda.
I think that because I was so young, they sort of shuffled me through, the red tape and were sort of like, she's so cute and here's what she wants to do. And we had the support of the principals and stuff, and they sort of got me in. And then I've sort of, set up camp there. I'm not leaving. And so now when I start trying to sort of push boundaries a little bit, ask them about some of the problems I'm seeing, ask them about some of the solutions in terms of policy that could be changed. No one wants to be the person that kicks me out. They're not going to get mad at me and then, push me out of the school district and not let me work with their schools. So I'm able to still sort of push those boundaries a little bit and try and work with them on challenging issues at a young age. And I think that if I hadn't been that young, I don't think I would have gotten an opportunity.
In terms of what's next for Riley and Rainbow Pack, she has ambitious but pragmatic goals. While she understands that the issue she's solving locally is national in scope, she's staying focused on the greater Unified LA School District and working with officials there on a more sustainable approach. One that would eradicate the problem entirely, making backpacks, pens, pencils, and rulers a given for each kid in school, just like the chairs under their desks or the hooks they hang their coats on. And after fielding numerous questions from other kids about how she accomplished what she has, she launched a new website called Just Start the Conversation, which takes her experience with Rainbow Pack and provides a simple step-by-step approach to identifying a need and helping address it.
I started sort of tracing back, how did I start Rainbow Pack? And I realized, the first thing I did was identify something I cared about. In that moment with that little girl, I identified, I care about her. I care about her not having crayons. And then, I started asking questions and starting conversations next. I asked questions to my mom. I asked her, why doesn't this little girl have crayons? And then we talked to, when she couldn't answer, we then talked to the outreach coordinator at my school and then the social worker. And that from that, I learned, how big this problem really was. And then from there, once I had sort of asked those questions, I then, identified the best course of action. I wanted to get backpacks full of school supplies to these kids. And that it was that basic thought process, those 3 steps, that were really how I got started. And when I started looking back, I'm like, well, this is how pretty much everything gets started.
Clearly, Riley is wise beyond her age and has done more in her 16 years than many of us adults will do in our lifetime. But I couldn't help asking her mom if Riley's passion, ambition, and hard work might take a personal toll on someone so young. After all, she's pretty much set aside her personal hobbies and interests because, as she says, Rainbow Pack is the most important thing to her now. So I asked Leanne if she worries about Riley. Does she ever tell her to slow down?
Yes, I tell her all the time that she's doing too much, or or just, it's like, maybe you should stop and take a look before you make that decision. And, in the middle of my sentence, she's like, well, I already told them I would do it, or I already said that our goal was 10,000 for this year, so we can't change it now. While I know that I could argue that we can change things, it's usually easier to just say, okay, well, what's your plan then? And again, just sort of try and point her the right way, or maybe mention things that she hadn't considered before, but she figures it out. I think that's the beauty of being a kid, is she doesn't think she can't do any of these things, so they're not obstacles. Yeah, she hits roadblocks and she has obstacles, but they're not usually what we think they'll be. It's kind of fun to watch.
It is kind of fun to watch. When you spend time talking with Riley, an interesting thing happens. You sort of forget you're talking to someone so young. At 16, I wouldn't say she's still a kid, but the way she goes about her work, the way she looks at the world and her role in it is grown up. So I couldn't help but ask Riley, what do you want to be when you grow up?
I don't necessarily know if I know what I want to be. I think I know what I want to do, in that my experience with Rainbow Pack has showed me that I want, being socially conscious and socially responsible and just making a positive impact in the lives of other people to be at the forefront of whatever I'm doing. And I think right now, I don't know what form that will take. I don't know, if that will be me being a business owner, a lawyer, whatever it is. I don't know what it'll be, but I know that whether it's, some extension of Rainbow Pack or something else, I want helping people and helping to make the world a better place be at the forefront of whatever I do. I don't think I could imagine my life without doing that.
Here we go, our conquering, it's our time to sing, it's our fight to win. Here we go, our conquering, it's our time to sing, it's our fight to win.
I'm Brad Shaw, and thanks for listening to this episode of Crazy Good Turns. Go to crazygoodturns.org to learn more about or donate to Rainbow Pack and to submit your ideas for extraordinary people and organizations we should feature. And stay connected with us between episodes by following us on Facebook and Twitter. You might have noticed we found some great music to support our podcast. We've provided a Spotify playlist of the full tracks on our website so you can take a longer listen, which we hope you'll do. And if you're a band with a song we should consider featuring, you can submit it on our website too. We're also asking you to help us grow our audience this year and bring our inspiring stories to more people. You see, Crazy Good Turns is a nonprofit itself, and like most nonprofits, we don't have a big marketing budget, and the single most important way for us to gain increased visibility is to crank up our ratings and reviews on iTunes. So we're setting a goal of 1,000 iTunes ratings by the end of the year, and we're asking you and the nonprofits we feature to unleash your creativity, passion, and social networks to help us get there. Because we're all part of this virtuous and self-reinforcing circle of giving, we'll give a $50,000 grant at the end of the year to the nonprofit that helps us the most. With your help, we know we'll get there and then some. Crazy Good Turns is audio engineered by Stephen Key. Music supervision and mixing by Score in Los Angeles. And a special thanks to Megan Basinger. Take care and let's connect again soon.
When they see Riley, they see another kid doing extraordinary things. And it really provides them this lens to think, I can do that. I can create something. I can do something. And it really is this message of hope. And I think that message of hope, even in our environment today, I think we need it even more.